Alright, hello everyone. We are on chapter 2.8. This is the last section of chapter 2, solving linear inequalities. So, the beginning of this lesson is very simple. It's going to take you a couple minutes to do the end of this section. So, if we were just solving a regular problem that might look something like this. Or something like this. Let's go through that process one time just to solve these and make sure we have this skill down. Because if you can do this, the new steps to this lesson are not really that hard. Alright? So, to solve this, if you remember, you divide by the opposite, cross out your 9, you're going to get x equals 2. Over here, we have to get rid of the addition and subtraction first, so we're going to subtract 5 from both sides, cross it out, bring everything down, 5x is equal to 40. And then we're going to divide by 5 divided by 5. We cross that out. We're going to come up with x is equal to 8. Alright, so if you could do that section, this is what's going to happen to the problems in this lesson. They're going to take this out, and they're going to put in a symbol, an inequality symbol. And I'll go over some notes for that in a second. And it's just going to look like this. And then over here it's going to look like this. It might have less than or equal to. And then you just bring the symbols down. There is a key to this though. At the end of the problem, remember on the problems before we would get something that said 8 equals x. And I said, no worries, as long as there's an equal sign here, you can just flip it around. No problem. There's no worries in doing that. You can do that every single time with an equal sign. Unfortunately, you cannot do that with an inequality sign. If it said 5 is greater than x, that's no good. If it said 5 is greater than x, sorry about that here, you cannot just go, oh, I'm going to flip that over, I'll put the 5 over here, because look what would happen. Now the 5 is not the greater one. I don't know if you did this when you were young. Some people draw this alligator mouth here. He eats the bigger number. He's eating the 5. Well, look, what is he eating here? The x. That totally changed your whole problem. Now you have it wrong. Alright, so you have to make sure if you are flipping this, which means you are doing, this would be change, or where you multiply or divide by a -1 or a negative anything. When you multiply or divide by that negative, you have to change the sign. You must change your inequality sign. Now, why am I telling you that so early? Because that's one of the most important things that people get wrong. They just flip it over because you have to have the inequality on the left side to be able to read it. That's why during our other problems I kept flipping these over. So we get used to reading our variable first. We want to get in those good habits. Alright, so here we would have to change this to the 5 is getting eaten, the 5 is bigger, the 5 has to stay bigger. Alright? Okay. So now, in my opinion, the best way to do these is just to start doing them. The problems will all be the same, the inequality will change, and there are some rules we have to go over, so I'm going to write those down right now. So these are notes you want to have. This is one of the main notes here, and then I'm going to write a couple notes here. It'll be in like a little chart here. Alright, this is less than, this is greater than. Then we're going to have, this is less than or equal to, and down here we're going to have greater than or equal to. Alright, there's a couple other things we have to go over. One, when we graph these, which is something we're going to do, the less than has an open circle. The greater than has an open circle. Over here, if it's less than or greater than and equal to, we're going to take our circle, we're going to fill it in. The fill-in means the number that that circle's on is included in the answer, which means that's why it says equal to. When it says equal to, that means it's included. So these mean included, which then these mean not included. And that's this and that. Okay? And then we have one more thing. We're going to have to write something called interval notation. So when we do that, we have to do little parentheses or brackets. Now these are going to get a parenthesis. And I'll go over this. This is the part that you have to really do a few problems before you can get this. Over here, we're going to have brackets. Like that. Alright? And the last note on this is going to be our infinity signs. Alright? This infinity sign is positive. So it goes that way. This infinity sign, negative infinity, goes obviously the opposite way. Alright? So everything on the board, you're going to need to do each problem when we graph these. Now this is not too complicated, but you do have to do at least 4 or 5 problems to get it. Alright, so let's start easy. We're going to start with what an answer looks like. And it's going to say graph x is greater than 7. Okay, we can do that. This is what we do. The first thing is, we make a graph on the x-axis, which means it's going to go horizontal. So we're going to go like this. We always put 0 in, because we need to know which way we're going with 0. This is positive 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'll just label. We don't need to label all of them, right? Because we're doing this by hand. When you're on the computer, it'll be a little more precise, or a lot more precise. Right? So that's at 7. That's good. There'll be a little arrow going this way, a little arrow going that way, because the numbers never stop on a number line. Okay, now we have to follow that chart up there. So we know our number is at 7. So what we do is we take the number and we put a circle above it. Okay? Now we have to look at this. This says x is greater than 7. So greater than is an open circle because the number's not included. Greater than, open circle, the number's not included. So it stays open like this. Now we have to put an infinity sign. Is it going to the right or is it going to the left? How do you know? Well, let me show you. The easiest thing you can do is this. Take your sign, your inequality sign, and just make an arrow out of it. Look at that. It shows you which way to go. So we just go like this. Done. The arrow shows you which way to make the arrow. Alright, so you're doing pretty good so far. So now, your graph is finished. But we do have to do something called interval notation. And that will be down here. Interval notation. And that just means they want you to tell you where it would be on a graph, what it would look like. So we go like this. We make 2 lines, put a comma. The first thing you look at is which way is our arrow going. So see how our arrow is going this way? That means it's a positive infinity. That means it's going to the right. That means positive. So now what you do is, you take, since it's going positive, you take this infinity sign and put it on the positive side. And just go like this. Make that little infinity sign. And then guess what we put in the other part? The number. 7. Put 7 there. One step left. One step left. Hang on there with me. Alright. The last step is, when we graph these, we have to put either a parenthesis or a bracket around each one. So every single time, the infinity always gets a parenthesis. So you always put a parenthesis around the infinity. So if you want to do this and you want to remember, this one will always look like this. This one will always look like this. Because the negative infinities are going to be on your negative side, on this side. Okay? So that's going to be infinity. It's always going to have a parenthesis. Now up here you have to look. Since this was greater than, and less than, have parentheses. If it's equal to, it's going to have a bracket. So we go like this. Oh, I just said the wrong thing. I did the wrong thing. I said the right thing, did the wrong thing. Greater than is a parenthesis. And then you're finished. So you do have to use this chart quite a bit to make that graph work. Alright, so let's do another one. I'm going to erase this and leave the rest here. Alright, so it's going to say graph x is less than or equal to 2. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a number line. Put an arrow on the end. Let's put 0 in. Since 2 is to the right, we're going to go 1, 2. Put a 2 there. So we created our graph. That's the first part. Create the graph. Second part is we have to go up here and look at marking our number. So find 2, put a circle in it. Go over to your chart. This is less than or equal to. Less than or equal to gets an included circle. Fill it in. Now we need to make the arrow. Is the arrow going left or right? Well, take your pencil, make the arrow. Oh, it's going to the right. So we're going to go like this. Arrow's going to the right. So now, you know that it's going to the, going to the left. Man, that's the second time I messed up in a very short time. That's not good, but it happens. Alright, so going to the left. So now we know that this is a negative infinity. It's going to the left. The numbers are going to keep getting smaller. So it's saying x is less than or equal to 2, 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, on and on and on and on and on. Okay? So as long as it's one of those answers, it'll work for this problem. So here we go. We're going to do our interval notation. Since it's going to the left, it's negative infinity. Let's put that in with its parenthesis first. Negative infinity parenthesis. On the next part, we put the number in, the other spot. The number's 2. If the circle is filled in, we know it's included. That's over here, and it gets a bracket. You can also look at your symbol. Less than or equal to gets a bracket. So here we're going to put a bracket on the problem. Alright, pause it if you need to. Moving on. Alright, we'll do one more of those. And a little bit faster. So we have x is greater than or equal to negative 3. First thing we do, make a graph. Put a 0 in. I'm going to put my 0 over here because I know negative 3 is on the left side. 1, 2, 3. This will be negative 3. So all we need to do is put a 0 in and then label the number that we're on. Okay? And now we go through and we make our marks. So the first thing is we have to figure out, we know negative 3 is our number, put our circle here. Put our circle, go up here. This is greater than or equal to. Come over here. Greater than or equal to, that means it's included. Which way does my arrow go? Go to this, make an arrow. Looks like it's going to the right. Going to the right. Graph is completed. Now we have to do our interval notation. That's down here. Comma, that. Okay. First thing is it positive infinity or negative infinity? Use your chart. Since it's going to the right, positive infinity. We put an infinity sign and then a parenthesis. So we go like this. Infinity, parenthesis. And the other spot we put our number. Negative 3. Now you ask yourself, is it not included or is it included? You can look at your symbol here. You can look at this. Or you could just use your symbol and go over here. Oh, I know it's greater than. It's included. That means it gets a bracket. It gets a bracket. Okay? Alright. Pause it. Look at it again. We got to go to the next one. Alright, so now we're going to get into what the problems really look like. Those were the problems where you get the answer. Now we're going to do where you don't get the answer right away. Okay. We're going to do 2x is greater than negative 16. Alright, so what we're doing is the same exact thing that we've done all chapter. Ignore this for right now. Pretend it's equal sign. Solve for x. We do the same exact thing. So, how do we get rid of the 2? Divide by 2. Divide by 2. Cross this out. Bring your x down. Bring your symbol down. Whatever inequality it is, bring it straight down. Negative 16 divided by 2. Calculator, or do it on your own, comes out to negative 8. Here is our answer. Now we're back to the step that I just showed you how to graph the answer. So we do the same exact thing. We're going to do it over. Graph. It's negative 8. That'll be over here somewhere. 0 would be over here. Negative 8. First thing you do, put a circle over -8. This is greater than. This is greater than. That means we do not fill in the circle. It's not included. Okay, that's fine. But we do need to know which way the arrow goes. So let's go like this. That goes that way. Alright, so now we know which way the arrow goes. Your graph is finished. Graphing's done. All we need to do now is write our interval notation. So, we're going to go like this, comma, this. We have our setup. If it's going to the right, is it a positive or negative infinity? If you said positive, you're right. So we put positive on the positive side, and we leave that there. The next part is we put our number in the other spot. Now, it's not colored in. This is greater than. Greater than gets a parenthesis. Finished. So we solved the problem, got an answer. Answer made the graph. The graph gives us the interval notation. And now we're finished. Now we can go on to the next one. Negative 2r is greater than negative 12. Alright, so solve the problem like we normally do. How do we get r by itself? We're going to divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. These will cancel. R comes down. R, what? Wait a minute, what did we say? If you multiply or divide by a -1, you have to do something. Change the sign. This is very important. You have to change. Change, change. That means this gets flipped over. Very important. Alright, now you just solve this. Negative 12 divided by negative 2. They will cancel because they're negatives, and you're going to get the answer of 6. Alright, good. Now we have our answer. I like to make it real clear where my answer is for these so we can graph it best we can. So, we make a graph. Put 0 in. This is a 6, so it's going to be on the right. So I'm going to put my 0 over here. I'm going to put my 6 here. I'm going to put a circle above the 6. Now I got to figure out, do I color the circle in? Is it included or not included? So I look here, okay, here, okay, that means it's not included. I don't color it in. Fine. I find out which way my arrow's going. Oh, it's going to the left. Okay, that part is finished. Now let's go to the next part. The next part is interval notation. And that's not working too well. Get rid of that. Alright, so if it's going to the left, what infinity sign do we use? If you said negative infinity, you're right. It goes on the negative infinity side with a parenthesis. Don't forget the parenthesis. Don't forget the negative sign. That's finished. Write our number in the other spot, 6. Included or excluded. So this is less than. Less than's not filled in, and it's a parenthesis. You're finished. Alright, moving on. Alright, here we go. So we start our problem off. Same way we start every problem off, solve for a variable if we can. And we can. So what do we have to do here? If you said divide by a negative 4, you are correct. Is there anything else that we have to do? We have to do change because we're multiplying or dividing by a negative. Change. Flip this whole thing over. Cross these out. Come down. X is on the left. Good. 8 divided by a negative 4 is going to be a negative 2. Alright. Now we have that finished. There's our answer. Now we graph. Well, I have 0, 1, 2. That's negative 2. Put a circle at the top. This is greater than or equal to. We'll go over here. A greater than or equal to is a filled in. Fill it in. Which way is our arrow going? To the right. That's good. Alright, now we do our interval notation, which is those two lines. So, we know it's going to the right, so which infinity sign do we use? If you said the right infinity with a parenthesis, good job. Fill our number in, negative 2. We look up here. This is filled in. If this is filled in, it should give you a clue about what you have to put here. If you don't know, this is greater than or equal to, bracket. Right. So often on homework, this is what people get wrong, the bracket and the parenthesis. So really pay attention to that before you hit submit on those answers. Okay? Alright, now that we did that, that's pretty much as hard as the problem's going to get. They're just going to get a little bit longer now. Yay, right? A little bit longer, that's what I needed. Okay, here we go. This is 3x plus 2. This is another fading out marker on me, man. Losing markers left and right. It's never a good sign, never a good sign. Okay. That is greater than negative x plus 7 plus 2x. Alright, so I have 3x plus 2 minus 5 is greater than negative x plus 7 plus 2x. Okay. Now we go back to our rules. What's the first thing we have to do on problems like this? Combine like terms. So, what can I combine on this side? If you said 2 and 5, you're right. Plus 2 minus 5 is a negative 3. Bring this down. 3x minus 3 on that side. On this side, we can combine an x and a 2x. This is negative x plus 2x. So I have 2 x's. I got rid of a minus x. That's going to leave me with an x. So that means this and this are gone. Bring down your 7. Okay, now the problem is more manageable. Okay, so now we have to figure out, are we moving 3x or are we moving x? We're moving x. Now remember, you don't have to flip the sign because we are not multiplying or dividing by a negative. We are just subtracting, so that doesn't change the sign. Cross that out. Subtract this. This will give you 2x minus 3 is greater than 7. Next step, we got to move that 3 out of there. Add 3 to both sides. Cross that out. Come down, you have 2x is greater than 10. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. Don't flip the sign because it's not a negative 2. sign stays the same. Cross your 2's out. You're going to get x is greater than 5. Alright, you did great on that one, but guess what? We didn't finish because we didn't graph it. We have to graph it. So I'm going to have to erase some of the top parts. So if you need to, pause it, and then we can continue. Alright, so I'm going to erase this up here. And it's going to be x is greater than 5. Alright, so up here our answer is x is greater than 5. Alright, let's make our, put our 0 in, put our 5 in. Let's make our circle. I know that this is greater than. The circle stays a circle, it does not get filled in because it's not included in our answer key. Alright. Going to the right, saying x is greater than 5. So this means any number that's bigger than 5 is an answer to this problem. Okay, graph is finished. Now we do interval notation. So we have, it's going to the right. Which infinity sign do we use? We're going to use the positive infinity because it's going to the right. Parenthesis. Okay, now we put our number in. And it's greater than, which means it's just a parenthesis, and we're done. So even a really long problem like that is doable because everything else stays the same except for this. This is all we're learning that's new in this lesson. Okay? Alright, let's do another one. Alright, here we go. 7x minus 6 plus 1 is greater than or equal to 5x minus x plus 2. Alright, so it's very similar to the last problem. So the first thing you should be thinking is, how can I make this easier to do? Combine like terms. So let's do that. Look at what you could combine over here. That's this right here, minus 6 plus 1. That's going to give you a negative 5. Bring your 7x down. Bring your symbol down. Over here, 5x minus x. That'll give you a 4x plus 2. Bring that down. Alright, now we're working with something that's a little more manageable. What x should we move? If you said 4x, good. Subtract 4x. Subtract 4x. Cross that out. This is going to be 3x minus 5 is greater than or equal to 2, or a positive 2. Our next step, we have to get rid of this 5 and move it over. Now, anytime you feel like, I want to do the rest of this by myself, do it. And then you can just fast forward to the answer. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. This is going to be 3x, and this will be 7. Alright. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. Do we flip the sign? No, because we're not dividing or multiplying by negative 1. Cross that out. We get x is greater than or equal to 7/3. When you put that in your calculator, you should get 2 1/3, or 2.33333, which is really 2.3 repeated. Alright. Again, make sure you're looking about how Alex or your computer program wants you to put the answer in. Okay. Now I have the answer right here. I have to erase this top part, so if you need it, please pause it. So my answer is x is greater than or equal to 2.3 repeated. 2 1/3. Okay, so I have my answer. Let's make my graph. This is positive, so I'll put a 0 here. I'll just put 2 here, and I'm going to put 3 here, just to show you. 2 1/3 would be about right here. So